I learned a different magic trick every week for a year, and this is what it taught me. A magician doesn't make a coin disappear. A magician makes you think a coin has disappeared. Magic is actually about attention. And the more I went through this social experiment, the more tricks I learned, the more I realized that life works in exactly the same way. Because if you don't decide where your attention goes, then something else will decide it for you. Now, I should probably begin by explaining why I decided to do this social experiment. And to be honest, I don't really have a good answer as to why I did. I just thought it would be fun. I thought it would be interesting. But more than that, I was really intrigued by the whole process of how magic tricks were designed, how they were created, because magicians and the people who make magic tricks sit down and don't let confines restrict them. They sit down and try and make the impossible possible. And I thought by studying the processes and the how-tos and looking behind the curtain, so to speak, to see how these tricks worked, I'd understand a little bit about this mindset, how you could approach the impossible with that completely open mind and that different perspective to make it possible. So I threw myself into the task. Every week I would learn a different trick. Card magic, coin magic, sleight of hand, mentalism. I was like a sponge absorbing all this magic information that was out there. But after a while, I began to notice something that started to repeat itself trick after trick. I would learn time and time again, the magic wasn't necessarily in what I was doing, but in how I was controlling and directing the people watching what I was doing, how I was controlling where they looked, controlling their attention. And the intriguing thing for me was just how easy that was to do. It led me to think about the fact of we're not actually that connected in our lives. We're not actually that present. You know, a magician can stand up in front of you, tell you what they're going to do, then do it. And you know it's a trick, and yet you still miss what they've done. Because you're not paying attention. You're not really present. Remember, magicians don't fool your eyes. They utilize your lack of attention against you. And that's really important to remember, because your eyes can see hundreds of things, but your attention can only focus on one. And once I noticed this in magic, I began to see it everywhere else in the world around me. Social media, advertising, brand work, client work, corporate work, coaching, all of these things. Time and time again, I would hear stories of people allowing their attention to be controlled by something else. They weren't looking where they were supposed to be looking. They were being misdirected. They were having a trick pulled on them, if you will. And they were allowing it to happen. Now, it can be fun in a magic environment where you're there to be entertained and a magician is entertaining you. But in your life, don't you want to be present? Don't you want to have attention? Don't you want to focus on what really matters? And yet we have these magicians in our life all the time controlling and manipulating us. And we allow it to happen. And perhaps that's the greatest trick in the world. Not making something disappear, but convincing you that you're actually looking in the right place all along when you're really not. And perhaps that's why so many people feel disconnected from their lives, because it's not that life has disappeared. It's not that the world around them has disappeared or something has vanished. Well, actually, now that I've said it, something has vanished. Your attention has disappeared. Think of how much of your day-to-day you spent reacting, responding, being forced into action by something else, replying to emails, responding to requests, answering calls, answering messages. It happens over and over again, and before long, your attention starts to drift and life begins to feel fragmented. And the problem is not that you can't focus. The problem is more often than not that you're focusing on the things that you shouldn't be. Just like a magician wants you to look in a certain direction, that's what we're doing in life, and we're missing out on the truth. We're missing out from seeing the real picture. So this social experiment, when I got through it, one of the greatest things I got out of it was not the ability to perform tricks. It was actually the ability to see the world again and to focus on training my attention so that I could notice the things around me that were important. Notice a sunset, notice a flower, notice what my children are doing, notice how I feel. These moments that I previously would have rushed past, I now started to slow down for, because I realized what was happening to me. All these magicians all around me, social media, advertising, controlling how I feel. And I didn't want to let that continue to happen. I started learning magic because I thought it would teach me about tricks, but it actually taught me something far more powerful. The experience of your life is going to be dictated largely by where your attention goes. And if you don't consciously make that decision, if you don't consciously guide your attention to where you want it to be, then something else will step in and do it for you. It could be fear, it could be busyness, it could be algorithms. Something will step in and play that magician role, will misdirect you, and will divert your attention from where it needs to be. Because remember, the magician knows something that most of us forget. Attention can be directed, which means that experiences can be designed. You can design your own life. And perhaps that's the greatest trick of all, not learning to make a coin disappear, but learning how to see again. I hope today's video has been helpful. One of the other things that came out of my experiment was these cards, my experience art cards. You might have seen me talk about them in other videos. I'll leave a link in the description below if you're interested in finding out more about them. It's a deck of playing cards, but it's designed as a series of daily challenges to refocus your attention, to help make you present again in your life. And they came out of this experiment, and a lot of the lessons that I learned throughout that year are replicated in this deck of cards. So if that's something that's of interest to you, I'll leave the link in the description below. But right now, I wanted to thank you for sharing your time with me again this week, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.